Hello everyone, my name is Steven Zapata. I'm a concept artist, illustrator, online art teacher, and former instructor at Art Center College of Design. I would like to introduce you to my new drawing course, Form from Imagination, a course designed to help you draw with confidence from your mind. Maybe you want to be a professional illustrator or designer, maybe you want to be a master with a pencil, or maybe you just want to be the best artist that you can be. Beautiful goals. But it's not always clear how to improve the work that you do from imagination. Over the past 6 months, I've taken all of the little eurekas, tips, and essential exercises that gave me confidence drawing from my mind and compiled them into a sequential course. We start with the absolute foundations, covering the scientific nature of light and shadow, how to hatch, how to create flat tones, how to render spheres and cubes, and step by step, we move through combined shapes, complex shapes, organic shapes. We cover how to simplify extremely complex subjects like the head into basic shapes so that you can handle them more easily from your head. We look at how to understand and treat details. And by the end of these 14 chapters with over 50 video lessons, you'll be ready to do complex designs from your mind with fidelity and energy. And all the demos are done in pencil on paper, so you can do all of the assignments even if you don't have a fancy digital art setup. But I also have demos, instructions, and modifications to the assignments for those who do want to do them digitally. Here's how it works. Go to formfromimagination.com and sign up for the course. Download the assignment book and start watching the lectures. Do the assignments at your own pace. Take your time with them and use this self-study to develop your patience. When you're done, post your assignments in the exclusive community hub, and I'll personally critique your work with drawovers, diagrams, and advice. I want you to know, this course is no joke just because it's online. It is challenging content, and it is more complete than it would be if I was teaching this class at an art college as I have before. If I was teaching this class in person at Art Center today, I would just play these videos in class, knowing full well that they're the most concise, focused, edited, step-by-step way to convey the material. So I'm serious when I say, this course isn't just a substitute for a college-level course, it's better than a college-level course. And you don't have to pay thousands of dollars per credit and wind up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So thank you for checking out the course, thank you for watching this and for your support, and thank you for drawing and making your artwork. The world needs it. I'll see you soon. Hello, hello, hello. Trying to think about my music choice. I wonder if I want to play a different playlist. That's fine for now. How's everybody doing? Greetings, greetings. Hello to Soko, Sansia, Mihail Simeonov, Disc Breaker, Jeff E, Boxer Wing 1970, Corey, Samir Bakhtyar, Maksashik, Maksakesix, Telepathic Fish, Gabuda, Ichamuda, Lucas Falls, the legendary Fish Flops, Dino Blaster, Flying Mutant Goldfish, Oster. I think that's about it, and I'm sure that's the only people who are going to be in here. I got a little tea, I got a sketchbook. I am going to draw. I don't have anything in particular in mind that I want to draw. I just want to doodle in my sketchbook. How are you? I'm good. I'll be honest, I'm a little irritated lately. A little annoyed. Give me a second, I'm gonna open my window a bit. See if that doesn't mess up the exposure on my camera too much. It kind of does, actually. I'm gonna leave it like that for a bit, I think. Actually, no. Screw it. I'm gonna close it. I know, I'm all over the place. My literature professor reminds me of you as a 45-year-old. Wow. I wonder why. I wonder why. Just in appearance? Hello, Thomas Sage. Hello, Nate Chavez. The hair, Steve, my God. I know, it's getting a little tall. It's getting a little tall. But whatever. Hello, Pedro CC. Sansia says, "Oh no, why irritated?" It's the usual. I mean, it's all the usual stuff that I don't usually find irritated. I'm just irritable lately. That's all. Definitely a me problem, or let's say a me cycle. You know, sometimes you're irritable, sometimes you're not. It'll pass, but damn, is it annoying while the irritability is coursing through. Let me slide this up a little bit, actually. I'm gonna doodle for a bit. If something more serious starts coming out, then we'll roll with that. But for now, I don't have any motivations towards seriousness. How are you all doing? Everybody doing good? I'm just gonna assume you're all doing great. Silly faces right off the bat. Probably going to be a lot of that today. Mr. Ball Slapper 2000 says, "No effing way. Steven Zapata live in my morning." It's true. It really is true. I can't deny it. I can't deny it. Soko says, "I get bratty and impulsive sometimes." Me too. Me too. I don't know, I'm just, you know, peeved. Not anything in particular. You know, there's the usual AI crap and all that going on, but that stuff doesn't, you know, that's been going on for, I guess, over a year now, and there's been plenty of times in there where it doesn't make me irritable. I'm just in an irritable phase, like I said. You guys know my philosophy on these things, just like it's an emotional system that's coursing through. Doesn't really have anything to do with any of the externals, you know? Well, I mean, they do affect it, but you can't say that they're intimately, truly connected. And it'll just pass. But damn, is it so annoying while it's going through. Oster says, "Steven, I blame you and your old fountain pen videos for my obsession with them. I apologize, because they can get very expensive. It has taken all of my willpower to not... because I really do like drawing with them, it has taken all of my willpower to not find out if there's a noticeable difference between a $1,000 fountain pen and a $40 fountain pen. I've come close. I've come close. I've had people offer me to try their very expensive fountain pens, and I'm like, kindly, I don't want to know. I can't find that out. I just can't, you know, I can't, because that's the ultimate dark hole for me. You know, like most artists, anything that promises to make me draw better, I'm just like inexorably drawn to it. So if I try like a $4,000 Mont Blanc and I feel like, oh my God, it is really smoother, it is really improving my lines, I'm done for. I'm done for. There goes all my money. So I can't do that. How do I get rid of this heart in YouTube chat? I don't think you can. It annoys me too, actually. I like seeing people hitting it, but it also covers up the end, like the last part of whatever the most recent sentence is. Because I zoom in on the chat box a little bit to make the text bigger. So it's not like optimized for when you zoom in, so it cuts off like the last 3 words of whatever the last thing someone else has said. Were those words in order? I don't know. Zdeck says, hey, Steven the Pasta. Almost managed to draw a phone when I'm a baby, but fell asleep in the middle. Any advice? Try to become an adolescent in the middle. That usually helps most people who are trying to draw phones while babies. Skip being a toddler or a child. Go right to adolescence. Steven, can drawing too much negatively affect your artistic growth? No, but sort of drawing thoughtlessly can make you veer in the wrong direction for particular goals. To be clear, drawing thoughtlessly as much as you can will make you better at drawing thoughtlessly, just without direction, you know, just doing whatever moment to moment. You will improve at that. And I'm not being facetious about that. That's like a thing that people would want to improve at. But if you have other goals, like you want to make a comic or something like that, just drawing as much as you can without ever actually drawing your comic will build the habit of drawing without structure and make it more difficult to eventually draw your comic. So it can veer you off from particular goals, but it doesn't make you worse at drawing in the abstract. Does that make sense? This breaker says, doing good. I was playing League of Legends, but your stream calls for drawing to be done. Yeah, you got to do it. You got to draw. Hello, Stephen. Is there a new video coming soon or a new A to Z podcast now that Halloween is near? Yeah, I'm working on I've been writing the script for a new pre-recorded video. Honestly, I do want to tell you guys this because I think it's important that you know. There's probably well, I'm not sure, but right now, I think there's going to be a period of a lot more pre-made videos for a while. And unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to reassess how much I'm streaming. And that is because I'm trying to figure it out, but I'm in a period right now where streaming is hurting the channel. And I'm not going to stop because I like streaming and I refuse to stop doing the things that I like. But I've kind of got to go in there and pop the hood and figure out why that's happening and what I'm going to do about it. You know, it's been trending that way for a bit, and I certainly did not care. This kind of looks like either Beavis or Butthead. I forget which one's which. I didn't really care when it was just that the streams were doing nothing to the channel. I'm like, whatever, neutral is totally fine with me. And you guys know me, I'm not interested in letting my life be governed by random algorithms and stuff like that. But yeah, it has crossed over now where every time I stream on net, I'm losing subs from that stream. Like, it's hurting the channel. Like I said, I'm not gonna stop. It's something that I like doing, but I gotta check it out. I gotta see what's going on. So I am probably going to, I don't know, maybe reduce the amount I stream, maybe just take a break of a few weeks or something like that. And I'm going to, my plan right now is to put out some pre-recorded videos, regular YouTube videos, to get like contemporaneous data for how videos are doing versus streams, and use that to make an assessment. So yeah, when you guys see me, if you guys see me disappear from streaming for a while very soon, know that that is what it is about, you know? Very kindly, whenever you stop streaming or something, people always worry if you're dead or sick or something like that. I was sick recently, but it's not that this time. I'm trying to figure things out. And know that if you see me stop streaming, that videos are instead incoming to gather data. Can you stream on Twitch? I could. I do have an old Twitch channel that I don't use anymore, but I don't want to. I don't. People aren't on Twitch to see art. People are on Twitch to watch video games. It's not really my audience, you know? And art in general seems to do, you know, if you look at the viewership of like the few art streams that there are on Twitch, there's just not a lot of, it doesn't get very high views for how, you know, Twitch is completely focused on streaming, you know. the views of a art stream on Twitch get about as much as you would expect them to be seeing from them on YouTube. And for the fact that Twitch is all about streaming, you would expect it to be higher. I've been feeling ballpoint lately. Let's do a little ballpoint drawing too. We'll continue to watch and support you no matter what you make. Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Someone's asking here, hey Steven, do you have any idea how mangakas deal with overwork and lack of sleep for years? I remember from your podcast on Arcafe, you said you work like that at Art Center. I don't think, probably on the level that you're imagining, like really high level people who run big famous mangas, you might be thinking about more middle of the road mangas. I don't know, but I also don't know that. I don't know enough about the industry to know what the work-life balance difference is like between the top and the middle there. My guess, what I want to say is that they don't really deal with it, right? I think they don't sleep, you know? I think they just push through and grind. They do have teams, most mangas, you know, not all of them. Not all mangakas have teams, but most have. From what I've seen, they have assistants and things like that, and more than one. You know, they might have 2 or 3. They have an editor to help them out and help schedule their lives and their deadlines and all of that. So being a team is definitely a different feeling than being alone. You know, it makes it easier to push through work because, you know, other people are depending on you and your time is structured and things like that. But yeah, my guess is that they don't deal with it. You know, my guess is that they just are committed to a long period where they don't really have a work-life balance for the most part. And they do get burned out. I mean, how many famous mangas that do you know that are unfinished, that they just went on years and years of hiatus and there's really no intimation that the mangaka is going to come back and things like that. It's like they're done, you know, and it's or at least I presume it's from burnout because they're clearly done, but they didn't finish the story, right? It might be one thing to say I'm finished, but then you would sort of like, even if you kind of rush it, you'd finish it, you'd close the manga out, but they don't, they just stop. And they're like, maybe I'll be back someday, and they just don't do it. So yeah, unfortunately, I wish I had a better answer, but I just think they don't deal with it. I think they just put themselves through the mill. And that requires a particular cultural milieu to do that. You know, you've either got to be a very particular kind of person who can put themselves through that on their own, which is very rare, very rare. Most people can't do that. You know, they can't harm themselves of their own volition like that. So you either need to be the rare person who can, or you need a cultural bin, right? Like the manga industry over there is a powerful cultural bin that makes it possible to drink the Kool-Aid on that, to put that much time and effort into it, to dash your life against those rocks. And without that, I think it would probably be very, very difficult to do. Yeah. Which is probably why it's so difficult to find anyone operating on that level in that capacity outside of the actual Japanese manga market, right? It's like it's designed to support them and hold them up and bolster them. Mr. Ball Slapper says, I literally use all your videos as a cope during work. It's the most calming thing ever, so I love all of it, even the streams. All right, well, you'll get more videos. You'll get more videos. I got to figure this thing out. You know, like I said, when it was to the point of neutrality, I didn't care at all. Just kept streaming as much as I wanted. But now that I'm on average losing subs per stream, again, like I said, I don't intend on quitting. I like streaming. I've been streaming art since like 2014, 2015. And I've always gone back and forth and gone back to it. It's something I like doing. You guys can tell. I like connecting with you guys. But I do feel like I gotta make some videos, get some data for current videos versus current streams and figure out what the heck is happening. Doing ballpoint pen now. Oop, hold on, let me check something over here. Forgot to check something. All right. LSU Mine says, hey Steve, any tips on drawing the further eye in a 3/4 portrait view? Even when I'm using a guiding mask, it's difficult to tell how the eye wraps around the head. Thank you. It changes from case to case because people's eyes have different distances between them, right? The canon of eyes, like, you know, there's one eye's width in between the two eyes. It's like, we all know people who don't have that. It's bigger, it's smaller, something like that. So that's going to change how much of the eye is visible in the 3/4. But in general, you really just need to be open to cutting it off, right? This is the near eye over here. The trick is to just not, well, I'm not digital here, so I can't erase it, so I'm gonna do it. But just in a far 3/4, don't show the whole eye. That doesn't make much sense. The nose has to cut off some of it. You know, it's almost more of an optical thing than a construction thing. You know, if you try to construct it through like this, like you're playing games, you know, you're pretending that you can do proper perspective without a setup and that you understand the perspective construction of something as complex as the head outside of a real perspective grid. It's like you're making all that shit up. So you might as well just jump to the actual optical fact. And then the amount of the eye that is conceived beyond the bridge, that is concealed beyond the bridge of the nose, determines either how far the head is rotated along with the rest of the drawing, or how far apart that person's eyes actually are. So here's another nose. It's like you can have just the tear duct blocked off. And that would be a pretty not a very subtle turned face, or you can have almost all of the eye concealed, and then that would mean that it's a near profile. So yeah, I just think of it optically. I don't think there's like a reliable way to do constructions to it that won't just result in you repeating yourself over and over again and not being able to, like, you won't be able to bend it for particular characters or particular likenesses and things like that. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have a stream channel and this channel for videos only. I've seen some channels do that. So I wonder, I'm not enough of a YouTube nerd to know if the reason they have done that is because of this particular problem that I'm facing right now. I don't know. If any YouTube nerds out there know, let me know. Mind you, I don't mean nerds pejoratively there, obviously. I am a YouTuber, so. Stephen, I want to thank you. I listen to you every day. You change my drawing practice. You are a light in this world, and I'm so glad to have found you at the start of my journey. I wish you the best. Thank you, Sebastian. That's very kind. I'm happy to help. The Sun Throw says, this does seem to be the case. Yes, YouTube likes that your channel has a niche that fits into the algo, so live stream channels do live streams that get recommended. Regular videos show in video recs. Interesting. Interesting. I'll have to look into that. I gotta say, it does sound like a bummer to have to split the channel. Just more admin stuff in my life. So much admin stuff. I need an assistant. I gotta get an assistant. I watched your TED Talk a while back. Well done, says Yank von Tonder. Thank you. Glad you liked it. Srijan Maiti says, I'm having trouble designing a 20-year-old Japanese boy from the 1940s. I want him to be lean and stylized for my experimental animation film. The story is serious and tragic, so can I get some help, please? That is too specific for me to help with. I would be talking out of my ass if I pretended to be able to help with that in the abstract like this. There's too many variables. It's like the specificity of being Japanese, a specific period, time period, 1940s. And once you throw the words stylized and experimental in there, it's like, if I don't understand that style and how you're trying to experiment, there's no way my advice on here's how to draw a cool kid is gonna be relevant, you know? So, but your project sounds interesting. Good luck with it. You'll figure it out. A main character like that is supposed to be complicated to design. It's like, it's not going to be easy. Take your time with it. Any good character, any good main like that always takes a while. Ladian says, hey, Steven, I draw for people in my area to make money, and it is like joy to draw while listening to one of your videos or streams, so thank you. Thank you, Ladian. You're very kind. Thank you. I'm glad the vids can help. I'm glad they can keep you company while you do your work. More videos incoming. I'm probably gonna take a break from streaming to make some videos. Have you ever used bleach on ink? No, I haven't. What does that do? Andrew Griffith says, Steven, it's Clayton. I'm modeling at the Art Students League right now, and I get to keep a headphone in while I'm staring at the backs of easels and canvases. Glad to catch you live today. That's awesome. It's so funny to think that someone's just listening to this while just modeling, just sitting there, having tons of people draw them. That's very cool. Good to hear from you, Clayton. I hope all is well. I never would have known that was you from your YouTube handle, which is a totally different name. Do you have some ideas in mind for the new videos? I don't know if they'll take on a new form or anything. I think they'll be a lot like the videos that I've always made on the channel. So basically just a recording of a drawing and discussing a topic. But I don't know. I mean, this might be a good opportunity to try something new. I haven't really sat down yet, and mostly when I'm thinking about this, I've been thinking about like, crap, do I need to take a break from streaming? And I haven't yet sat down and thought about what I'll do for the videos instead. So when I do that, when I sit down and brainstorm it, or just think about it, maybe I'll come up with something new. Maybe I'll try something different. Steven, what happened to your TikTok account? Used to love watching your videos there from time to time. Thanks, those are fun to make. TikTok demanded that I give them my ID or else they would delete my, my channel, and I let them delete my channel. It's that simple. You know, it came down to an evaluation of like, what person do I want to be more? So I hadn't looked at it for a while, but I think I had somewhere over 30,000 followers on TikTok. And I had to ask myself, like, what's more important to me, 30,000 followers or being the kind of person who doesn't give a shit about losing 30,000 followers? And at least for me, the choice was clear. So I just let him close it. Is the head up there Beavis inspired? It was not Beavis inspired, but I did notice while I was drawing it that it looked like Beavis. What do you have to say about using ballpoint pens? What do you have to say about using ballpoint pens? Your Honor, I deny this accusation outright. I would never use a ballpoint pen. I never have. These are slanderous calumnies being hurled against me. I don't know. I don't have much to say. They're a great tool. To me, they're really just... I just use them exactly like I use pencil. There's just no erasing or smudging. But they have a surprisingly wide value range. They put down a lot of grays. They have a glare problem just like pencils do. Yeah, to me, I use them just like I use pencil. Not much to say beyond that. They're not a super tricky tool, you know? They're very straightforward. Hey, Steven, any tips for digital painting, stuff like portraits and such? The problem with trying to give a tip for digital painting is that it's not like if you were asking me tips for oil painting or tips for acrylic painting, where there are real universal restrictions on how those physical materials work. So there's like generalizable things that could be said about how to control them. Digital painting can be anything, and absolutely anything. It's completely structureless because it's digital. There's no limitations. There's no boundaries. It can be every kind of work. It can do every kind of work. It can be flat. It can be rendered. It can incorporate collage. It's just everything, absolutely everything. So yeah, I don't know. It's very difficult to give any kind of generalizable advice, even within the realm of portraits. It's just like digital could do every kind of portrait, photorealistic, fake painterly, flat and graphic looking. So I guess the only generalizable thing I would say is like be open to the possibilities. Use digital for the fact that it's infinitely flexible, and don't get trapped, don't get sucked into like, you probably have a lot of presumptions starting out about like how digital is supposed to be done. And I would avoid those, you know, just explore and indeed try the ways that you would think digital is not supposed to be used. And look forward to being surprised by how a lot of the stupid little rules that everybody has can be effectively violated. What do you think about tattoo art, says Charlie? I think it's great. I don't do tattoos myself. Don't have any either, but tattoo art's awesome. I see we are falling into the old octopus people habit. You know it. Nothing like a pocket Cthulhu to keep me drawing. Cthulhu. Would you ever get a tattoo? I don't know. If I did, it would be a very simple thing. I'm too critical about art. I couldn't. It's just not for me. I don't think. I can't imagine what picture. I can't imagine. Yeah, I just can't imagine what picture I would feel comfortable committing to forever. You know. Just like I don't have the critical turn-off switch to stomach that. But that could change, you know. If something ever rose to the level where it could be appropriately ritualized, you know, where it wasn't about the picture, but it was about the meaning. But, you know, I don't really have a profound desire to concretize meaning on my body, which is, you know, again, totally personal, right? Because I get how it's a cool thing to do and that a lot of people like doing it, but I just don't have that. Or maybe it would, you know, maybe just like an old favorite, you know? When I think about like my favorite, like would I ever just get like a tattoo of like my favorite drawing ever? Like that ink drawing that Frank Frazetta did of Kubla Khan finding his dead friend. It's like, would I ever get that tattooed on my back? It's like, I've looked at that drawing probably more than any other drawing in the history of the world, or in the history of things that I've seen. It's like, I just don't feel any urge to have it on me, you know? Is fountain pen better than ballpoints? No, it depends what you want. They're just different mediums. The main difference for me is that fountain pens don't put down grays, right? Like this fountain pen leaves pretty fine lines, but no matter how fine the line is, it's pure black, right? So all of the value differences that you get are technically a halftone effect. So the difference between grays with fountain pen is the same as the difference between grays on a newspaper, which is just that the dots or the lines, in the case of a drawing, are just getting closer together or farther apart. That halftone effect is what's producing the illusion of different values. But the only thing that's ever actually going down on the paper is pure black. That's the only thing the fountain pen will put down. In my opinion, and this may not be true on a microscopic level, but I think on the scale of a drawing that we see with our eyes, ballpoint pens will leave real grays. So to me, these lines that I'm putting down, these very light lines that I'm putting down right now with the ballpoint pen, even if I get very close to them, they're gray. They're not black. You know, they may be pure black way down at the core. I think microscopically that would be the case, but they leave a true optical gray on the scale of a drawing. And then if I do dark lines, you can see those are black. Those are distinctly black and those are distinctly gray. Whereas the fountain pen does not do that. These thin lines are clearly still black, and then if I need them darker, they get thicker and they close the space between them. But even at the scale of a drawing, it's clear that both are perfectly black lines. So it just depends what you want out of your drawing and how you want to work. It's not that one's better than the other. That's why I think ballpoint pens are, in a working capacity, they're closer to what we consider pencil to be because they put down true grays, and fountain pens are closer to what we consider ink to traditionally be because it only puts down a pure black line. Dino Blaster says, Steven, what did you have for breakfast? I had ramen and pineapple. Nice. I had 2 eggs. Goodbye, Stevola Blanc. Take care. Go feed those dogs. Do you enjoy brush pen lines? Yeah. I prefer to sketch with nibs because I like the bite. I like the feedback. But brush pens are great. They're just very airy. You know, you can't really feel that you're touching the paper for the most part. I like a little tooth. What kind of pen do you use? I use all sorts of pens. This is a Pilot Lucina that I'm using right now. That's the fountain pen. And this is, what the hell is this? A Pilot Easy Touch. This is just a regular ballpoint pen that you'd find at Staples or whatever. Any office supply store. Steven, do you always wake up this early? Have you ever had a screwed up schedule when you were in school? Yeah, in school my schedule was awful. Of course, it was totally inconsistent. It was just, my schedule was just based on how bad my homework load was. It happens. If it gets real bad, you have to take control of your life at some point and force yourself to go to sleep even if your work's not done. I hit that period. I had to schedule every hour of my day at a certain point to prevent sinking into too dark a depression. I had a color-coded chart that I taped to the to a wall in my bedroom, and it was just like, you know, it was literally just every hour of the day. It was printed on a big 11 by 17 piece of paper, so it was like about this tall, right, as my sketchbook turned vertical, and it was every day of the week up top, and then every waking hour going down. So the first hour was waking up at whatever time I woke up, and then the time I was supposed to go to bed. And I filled in all the blocks where I had classes. So classes were blocked out in like red. And then I scheduled every hour, like this is homework time, this is cooking dinner, eating dinner, cleaning up, laundry. Like my whole life, I had to get it down into blocks of a half hour to an hour. And I just lived by that for a while. And I made the chart my god, you know, I made the schedule my god. And it didn't matter how much I had blown an assignment, how bad I had done. I followed the chart. And yeah, there were a few times where I had to come into class and just be like, I got nothing. you know, because I needed to take care of my mental health. I needed to sleep. You have to not just be disciplined about work, you know, you got to be disciplined about your life. But that's harder. That's harder because you're not incentivized by culture to be disciplined about taking care of yourself. Culture only incentivizes you to be disciplined about making money and being gritty. So you gotta take next level ownership of your life to do stuff like that, but it's important. What shapes of heads do you prefer drawing the most? No particular shape. Hopefully I can bend them all around to fit the character, you know, not just repeat myself forever. Have you ever tried a fountain pen with a zebra G-nib? A zebra G-nib? I don't think so. I've used plenty of G-nibs though, just not the zebra one. I've used the Kuretake G-nib, and I forget what the other one is. Yeah, Wall, that was Earth's World, like Soketh said. Hey, Steven, any tips on drawing hair with ink? That's looking fine, man. I'm not very good at hair. I mean, I just like to scribble the strands and things like that. I don't really do anything tricky to do hair with ink. Like if I wanted to make that more coherent, I would need a second pass, and then I'd need to go in and like on an individual lock, I'd need to do a treatment like this. You know, because big hair locks are forms, you know, and forms, you know, they need time, and you got to be careful with them. So, you know, I would need to do something like that to try to finish off the hair, make it look fancy and cool. Here, I just scribble it. And all I really think about is the overall shape. You know, I forget about sort of the intricacies of the locks, and I just try to find an overall cool graphic shape for the hair to be in. Stephen, have you contemplated taking up plein air painting? I hear the New York countryside is quite the sight in fall. It is. I've done plein air painting a bunch in the past, but take it up in like a that's what I do kind of way? No, that's not me. I do like drawing landscapes, painting landscapes every now and then, but it's not something that I could like do forever. You know, my heart really is with characters or figures, the body. Do you like conceptual art? The good stuff. Every now and then, if you go to a really far out there gallery opening or exhibit of some really high concept stuff, yeah, I mean, some of it's just amazing, you know? But yeah, you know, it gets a bad rep in culture because a lot of it is also crap. And it's crap that people like can't understand why it's sort of being lauded, right? But the good stuff is the good stuff, you know, you can't deny it. Like anything else, there's just great examples. The good stuff is truly impressive, if not on a technical level. It's like, you sort of marvel, like, how'd you even come up with that? You know, even if you're a very creative person, some really great conceptual art will really make you like just super impressed that like someone has designed their life such that their brain can even go there, you know, like to think that that's an option. It's very cool. Let me kill this. What pen is that? It's the Pilot Lucina. That guy looks like a market owner near where I live, Steven. That's funny. You know, there's people out there who look really crazy. The traditional canon of proportions likes to ignore that there's real people walking around who look like goddamn cartoon characters. Steven, any shading rendering tips the way you do, like with graphite and ink? Well, you know, I've got a course called Form from Imagination that is my very long answer to that question. But, you know, the kinds of shading and rendering that I do, it's hard for me to simplify it down because I've been working on it for a very long time. And I've incorporated a lot of aspects into it. There's parts of it that are realistic, parts that are not realistic. A lot of that stuff self-consciously so, like I think I'm aware of what parts of it are real, what parts of it are realistic, what parts of it are unrealistic, and I'm choosing at my discretion which aspects I want to co-opt and which I don't. So if I had to give a generalizable tip for people who are interested in shading and rendering, it's like learn light, learn how light works. Like if someone were to ask you what's the difference between a diffuse reflection and a specular reflection, and you can't answer that, there's very little hope that you're going to be able to render very well, or at least the way that I do. If you're asking the way that I do, you need to be able to say it. You need to know that stuff. You need to get what that is. At the very least, that I would say. And beyond that, you should know what the modeling factors are. You should know what the parts, what the light effects are that trigger in the human eye that this is a real form that I'm looking at. If you start there, sort of everything else is a matter of taste, I would say. You know, it's up to you what parts of that you want to use and what parts you don't. So know what a diffuse reflection is, know what a specular reflection is, be able to list the modeling factors and understand what they are. You know, that's the basic base for anybody. And if you look at my Form from Imagination course, which is my very long answer to how I shade and render, especially from my head, that's where the course begins. You know, the first few hours of that course are me explaining specular reflection, diffuse reflection, and the modeling factors. Is rendering the only way? Absolutely not. Especially because rendering is a term that we all like to use for what we consider to be the shading process in a drawing, but, and I talk about this a lot too, it's not real. Rendering isn't really real. I mean, it's a convenient way to categorize a particular part of the process that feels like it takes longer than doing the lines, in quotes. But if you pull back and you look at it on a raw objective level, rendering isn't its own distinct thing. What I like to think of it as is you're just drawing on the inside of the lines. That's it. You're not doing anything different. You're doing the exact same thing that you do with the lines. It's just that the fact that, what are you doing with lines? You're describing forms in space. That's all lines are doing. Lines in particular are describing a particular kind of form in a lot of cases, which is they are describing forms that happen to be meeting the background and turning away from the eye of the viewer. Happen to be, right? Lines can also be used for hatching on the inside of those contour lines. The same thing is happening. You're just describing forms in space. And the fact that realistic rendering is done with soft shapes of value rather than hatch lines doesn't change a goddamn thing. It's the same thing. You're just describing forms in space. You just happen to be doing it on the inside of the contour lines. If you can deprogram the assumption that shading is something different in your head and just see everything I described all as the same thing, you'll unlock rendering in your head. And then you won't find rendering boring anymore because you'll realize you're not shading stuff, making random soft marks, you're continuing to add information to the drawing. And adding information to the drawing is what makes most people find sketching exciting, because it's, you know, each little line indicates a lot of new information, and that gets addictive, and it just has a lot of bang for your buck. And then they shade and they don't know what they're doing, so each little bit of shading doesn't really like add anything because it's unmotivated. So they lose their energy, they can't push through it, and they don't want to do it. And they find rendering, in quotes, to be a grind. Once you switch it around to just feeling rendering to be the same thing as those sketch lines that you're putting down, it's fun again. Have you ever smudged by accident a drawing? Sure. It's not a big deal though. I mean, materials like graphite and charcoal, they're smudging because they're easy to smudge. So usually it's easy to fix them too. You can easily erase the smudge and put things back in place. Stephen, what advice do you have for developing charm? I feel that I am technically not bad, but I want a very strong tone that is unique to me. You can't force it, I don't think. You need to just sink deeper and deeper into the stuff that you like and remove self-consciousness about what other people are gonna think about it. That's just like a personal journey you need to go on. I don't think you can force it. Most of what holds people back from doing quote unquote charming stuff is that they're just self-conscious about what people are gonna think, about who's gonna like it, who's not, if it's the right thing to do for them, all that. If you get rid of all that stuff, that'll let you at least begin the journey to doing stuff that is very unique, because it'll be coming from your internal sort of unaffected place. Where else can I jam faces in here? I need advice on drawing better goblins. You know, make them meaner, make them crunchier, make them more, more that, you know. Is Ahmed Al-Duri bothering you anymore? Will protect you, Stephen? No, he's been very nice to me lately. Stephen, where do you get that line confidence? Just from drawing a lot, you know. Well, once you've done a billion drawings, you know, it becomes difficult to care about any individual line. It's like, all right, well, I've drawn a billion lines before this and I'll draw a billion after, so why would I worry about this one? I hope that makes sense. And just after you've been drawing for a long time, this may sound negative, but it's not. It's just like you disabuse yourself of the notion that you're ever going to do a perfect drawing. You know? You just lose the pressure. A lot of people, when they're early on, beginner or intermediate, even if it's not like conscious, subconsciously they have this process running where it's like, I don't know how else to put it. It's like subconsciously they're always telling themselves like, oh, wouldn't it be a shame if I sucked? And when you've been doing it for a long time, you're sort of, you just understand deeply that it's like, of course I'm gonna do drawings that suck. That just takes a lot of the pressure off, you know? You instead look at the idea of doing a bad drawing and you're like, of course I did. Of course I did. It's like, drawing is really hard and I'm not the best. So why would I be surprised or worried about doing bad drawing? Of course I'm gonna do a bad drawing. I'm sorry I'm not Frank Frazetta. My bad. You know, it's just silly after a while. But you know, a lot of people just, they only want to make art if they're the best. You know, that process is running underneath there as well. And, you know, you got to feel bad for those people because by definition, only one of them is going to make it through. Everybody else is going to quit. Once they see that they're not the best, they're just going to quit, you know, because that was their main motivator. It's a shame, you know. I was one of them, you know. I'm still here because it turns out I was the best, but for everybody else, it's just like, it's the worst reason to get into art and to do art, because statistically it basically guarantees you're not going to keep doing it. You know, someone's going to win the lottery on that, me, and everybody else is not, and they're going to have to drop out. So it's just the worst reason to make art. Warrington says, hold on, I'm missing a bunch of questions here. Warrington says, what do you think about people who mash the undo button when doing their lines in digital art? I don't think anything. I mean, if that gets them to great drawings that fulfill their goals, it means nothing. It just doesn't mean anything. If it's holding them back from achieving their goals, then it should be excised and replaced with something else. But on principle, there's zero wrong with that. There's been plenty of your favorite artists of all time were artists who sweated and redid every single line. Forget undo, but with an eraser. You know, you love plenty of artists who were working pre-internet, pre-recording process, pre-telling the truth about processes. And I can guarantee you that some percentage of them cried over every single line and just refused to share anything where they hadn't vetted every single line and redone it a few times. And if it does great work, who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter. Do you do the ink smudge technique? Sometimes. Not on all subjects, though. It's nice on, like, armor, because it sort of immediately replicates the, like, high contrast, flickering look of speculars on something shiny or chrome. So it's really nice on things like metals and stuff like that. But I find I can't control it enough to make it satisfactory on things like a face or something like that. Hi, Stephen. Happy to catch you live. I have a burning question on your advice. How do you choose to let go of every irrelevant negative thought and choose joy when free will doesn't exist, like you say? It's not really a choice. I mean, so much in our lives, right? It's like whether choice is truly choice is almost irrelevant, right? I don't actually think it's irrelevant, because I think your position on free will is such a philosophically substantive understanding in the life of each given individual that it will condition what you do with a lot of the rest of your life and how you choose things. But on individual things, like, are you going to eat dinner or not? Are you choosing to eat dinner or not? And are we talking about the illusion of choice or real free choice? That doesn't matter. On an individual thing like that, it really doesn't matter. It just doesn't add up to much. So what it is instead is that, how are you going to, I don't believe in free will, so I believe that choices are conditioned, right? So it's less, how am I going to choose to let go of irrelevant negative thoughts? Because even if you chose it, you couldn't do it, right? That's the punchline. Even if I sat here and with what we think is free will, I was like, I'm going to choose to let go of irrelevant negative thoughts and choose joy, you will sit down and within a minute, it doesn't matter. You will have negative, irrelevant thoughts enter and you will not be joyful, right? So it's not about the choice. It's about saying, I am controlled by the current state of the cosmos around me and all of the conditioning factors, whether vetted or unvetted, that I have allowed to impinge on my mind. So if you take that seriously, then you, instead of it being about choice, you ask yourself, how am I going to control the conditioning factors around me such that it will make it so that I am inclined to let go of irrelevant negative thoughts and be joyful while I work? So instead of that being a magical choice that you make, whether it's a true choice or not, it's about going through and inspecting what is inclining you to take these thoughts seriously, what viewpoints are making you take them seriously, why you would think something else like success, a career, something like that is more important than being joyful moment to moment while working. Analyzing those things, finding them, a lot of those things will just disappear as soon as you have analyzed them and found them. Some of those things are so susceptible to scrutiny that literally a moment of recognition will make them disappear forever. And other things, you need to work on them more. You need to do now we're in therapy category, right? You need to work them out, go back to the source, maybe have difficult conversations with people in your lives who are conditioning your shit too much. Like, you know, your dad said some useless fucking thing to you when you were 5 and you never let it go, even though he's never talked about it again, things like that. And you'll need to break those things down. And then once you get rid of them, hopefully, or once you've broken them down, they won't surface again. And then they can leave your space of creativity more and more open. So it's less about making a magical choice and more about controlling the environment, your conditions, all of the factors that are impinging on you while you work, taking them seriously as something that does decide the moment-to-moment character of how you're doing your work and how you're living your life, and fixing them, getting serious about fixing them. No, I thought Steven was going to make that an anime girl face. No such luck. How do you leave yourself out of the numbers game? I hate to think, oh, my drawing sucks because 5 likes, bro. You just have no idea how the algorithm's working. You know, it's completely opaque to you. Don't worry about it. You know, just keep making your work. It's like the likes are like, likes especially are really light. They mean goddamn nothing. You know, there's likes being like the lowest level engagement. Besides viewing, likes are the lowest level engagement you could give to something. So they mean very little, right? They're, you know, stuff like comments is much more impactful. Stuff that is more of a commitment, like following or subscribing, is more impactful. Likes are just really light. Like, don't worry about likes. Says you're not for Zeta. I don't think I am. Saman has to go feed their chickens. Go do it. The chickens need food. Do you do anything particular to help get yourself into flow state? Exercises you do or environments you're drawing in? I've been having trouble myself. I don't consciously do anything to get into flow. I'm just patient with myself. the way that the process runs for me now, I basically just have full confidence that if I don't multitask, if I don't do other stuff, if I just sit for an hour, somewhere near the end of the hour, I will wind up in flow. And I don't put pressure on it. I don't worry about it. And yeah, I'd say 99% of the time, if I just am patient with myself in that way, it does arrive. It does arrive. And it doesn't matter if I'm mad, happy, anything. It'll just show up. So yeah, I don't try to do anything specific. I don't worry about the environment. I feel like that would just condition me to be too obsessive about my environment. You know, I'd feel like I couldn't work anywhere else. You know, I couldn't work outside or at someone else's house or something like that. So I've never been very inclined to obsess about those things. Smart. Discourage others from trying to be the best so you remain on top. Look, you have to use every advantage. Cans Rick 180 says, I made art so people could like me more. Clearly that didn't work. Yeah, that ain't gonna pan out. Sploige says, how do you explore very abstract ideas through images? What do you think about? Example, this drawing is about free will and its intersection with domination by external forces. High concept stuff like that, you need to find your own internal language for it. And if you're grappling with something that you haven't found solutions for before, you don't have a personal symbology for, you need to erect that initial system first off. I had to write to do it. I couldn't draw my way through stuff like that when I've done it successfully. So yeah, I would recommend writing. Try that. You need to sort of like, it's like free will is too abstract. You know, you wouldn't know how to begin drawing it. So instead make a chart, a web, or just in your notebook, write free will, and then just start free associating basically. And just, what does that feel like? What could that be? And start pulling out of those associations a personal symbology, right? And then the way that you are going to link those symbols to other symbols is going to determine the uniqueness of your work and how it impacts others. You know, I don't think there's any concrete things to be said about it. On that high a level, dealing with such lofty concepts, it's gonna get weird, you know, and you've got to let it get weird. Aaron says, Steven, I just binge ate and feel awful. I'm sorry, you know, I'm sorry. Hope it was tasty food. Mustard Custard says, I read Free Will by Sam Harris, and it's hard to disagree with him that there is no free will. So I just put it to the back of my mind and get on with things, but I have no choice in that anyway. Yeah, the I had no choice in it anyway is kind of the crux, right? It's like, if there is no free will, you never had it, but it's not like it disappeared from you thinking about it, right? If it isn't, it never was. And what was the result of that? Your whole life, you felt like you had it. You have felt like you were making free choices in all of this. So to some extent, on balance, it's net neutral. Like you wind up back where you started, right? Unless you're gonna go, you know, full monastic and live in a space of being driven by the universe moment to moment forever. But most people are not going to do that. They're going to return to the state of feeling like they are a conscious agent who is choosing and affecting the universe from within. So, you know, that's the punchline. You know, you wind up back where you started. But, you know, in my opinion, on a foundational level, a degree of acceptance there can affect, like I said before, not individual choices. I don't think it's going to change the way you choose how to eat. Like, you know, if you go to the deli counter and you choose what you're going to eat by flipping a coin, you're a psycho. you're still supposed to go with what you want, right? But it's not going to affect those kinds of choices, or at least it seems silly to let it to. But on a more foundational level, I think it can affect the way that you move through the world and the amount of peacefulness that you have as you move through the world. Context Studio says, that's actually crazy good advice. Thank you. I struggle to fall back in love with making art again, and right now trying to turn my life around to make it work again. You can do it. Come on, baby. You can do it. Come on, Context Studio. You can do it. You turned it around. You turned it around. Curse Fetus says, you rock, Steven. Thanks for the words, bro. It helps, and you always incentivize me to keep on sketching my weirdness. Good. Good. Aliciu says, learning the head planes and structure is a bit sterile and pretty difficult to grasp. I was wondering if you have any tips about how to make it exciting. If you find it sterile, I would low-key advise you not to do it. Don't do anything that you don't feel is fun. When I was learning the planes of the head, I was never grinding it. I had fun doing these little like, oh yeah, then this goes back like this, and then that points that way, this points this way. Whoa, cool. Oh yeah, nice, dude. Oh, dude, it looks like a wireframe. Oh, I love it. Like, that was always how it felt. I was always having fun. And I'm not sure you should do it if it's not fun. If you find it sterile and difficult to grasp, it might just not be the way for you. There's nothing in the rule book that says this is how you need to learn, right? I doubt Michelangelo learned that way. I mean, he was a sculptor, so he sort of had an easy in to understanding the forms. But just what would excite you? Just draw characters if that's what excites you. Draw portraits of people, you know, celebrities or stuff like that if getting likeness is what excites you. Don't waste your time in avenues that bore you. It's like that's only going to make things harder in the long run. Go do the stuff that's fun. Don't get distracted by shit you don't like. It's art, you know. Get distracted by stuff you don't like at work, making money, things like that. Like the things that have stakes, right? There's no stakes in art. You don't got to worry about it. Just art's a very different space than everything else in life. Only do the stuff you like in art. That's going to make it easier to learn anyway. It's probably going to make you learn faster in the end. Sploid says, I've been writing a lot and finding it way more rewarding than drawing and feeling guilty. So it's helpful to hear you say that you just write to solve this sort of stuff. Yeah, don't feel... Guilt is not useful in any art form. You save that for, you know, the way that you screwed over your partner or something like that. Like, guilt's not helpful there. Not in art, you know? It might have some useful conditioning capacity in other parts of life, but in art, I just don't... You're not betrothed to anyone or anything in art. You're not hurting anybody else with your art. In art, I truly believe all negative emotions are useless in art. I'm not saying they're useless in all parts of life, right? Other parts of life have stakes, have other people involved, have other people's hearts involved, have other people's physical well-being involved. Art doesn't, so fuck it. Art's like the only safe place to be a total narcissistic psycho. It's the only safe place, right? Unless, you know, you're drawing... Obviously, if you're drawing, like, harassing images and you keep pinging them at a person, like, that's fucking stupid, right? But almost nobody does that stuff, right? In 99% of cases, art's the best place to just be a total self-possessed, totally selfish, crazy person. It's fine and it's desirable in the end, I think. It's like, that's... To some extent, that's what art is for. It's like this free sandbox that allows you to do that in a productive and creative and generative and healthy way. Whereas there's basically nothing else in life that allows that level of freedom, essentially. So yeah, I think all negative emotions are throw them out today, right now. Literally never feel one again in the context of art. It's totally useless. Mustard Custard says, I agree, free will or not, kind of doesn't matter. Yeah, on the level of normal practical choices, I agree. I just don't think it matters. On an ultimate level, it might matter. I don't know. I mean, it depends on the individual. I have found that, you know, the core level stuff like that has had a strong effect on me internally, but it doesn't change the way I, like, what the hell am I trying to say? It's like, it doesn't change the way I live my life. Like, I don't let things happen randomly. I don't toss coins to make choices, in air quotes, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that it changes the way I feel about my life in a positive way. Thoughts on feeling anxious while creating art or fearful of the outcome, perhaps fear of wasting time. Have you felt any of this and have you overcome it? I think I just kind of answered that with my thoughts on guilt and stuff like that. If you're trying to come at it from a different angle, let me know. Dean Trifonov says, I really like the idea of the 50-50 rule and doing your images even if they're bad. But in practice, it's very hard to be patient with those. Much easier to get flow and fun with master studies. I know, yeah, I understand that. That's why, I mean, I've said on here a few times, but what I would actually recommend to people is something closer to the 90-10 rule, where you spend 90% of your time doing your creative work and you study 10% of your time, if that. But that is so, I don't advise that because most people find it impossible to do for the reasons that you explained. It's like your internal narrative about how good you're quote unquote supposed to be and your disappointment with the distance between your work and your taste is so overpowering that most people cannot bring themselves to do 90-10. They just can't do it. So I don't advise it because it seems kind of unrealistic considering how difficult people find it. So that's why I advise 50-50. That's like, even that people find very hard. If you tell people like, you've got 4 hours to draw today, you're gonna spend 2 hours studying, 2 hours doing the work you think you dream of making, it's amazing how many people just buck against that. They can barely do it. It's super hard, but it's good discipline. It's necessary in the long run to figure that stuff out. Hey, Steven, have you ever get burnt out from the type of art you are making? Well, technically, yeah, but I never, the real problem with burnout is when you're forced to stay doing that stuff. But it's been a long time since like a job has forced me to stay in that past the point of burnout. So now, no, it's just, if I'm bored of making the type of art that I'm making, I just make a different type of art. You know, I mean, anyone who's seen a lot of my work and has watched streams and stuff like that knows I do all sorts of stuff, and I just I bop around. I do ink drawings, pencil drawings, digital. I do graphic. I do stylized. I do creatures. I do characters. I do environments. I just switch. You know, I don't let myself get. There's less about letting myself get burnt out. It's just like I'm not gonna do it. You know, if I'm bored, I'm gonna do something else. I'm always gonna follow the fun. You know. Dino Blaster says, Steven, are you in the school of thought that consciousness, it always makes me laugh whenever I think a question's going to be about art and then it's something like this. It always makes me laugh. Well, Steven, are you in the school of thought that consciousness is training wheels for the unconscious mind and flow is when the unconscious mind is unencumbered by roadblocks of knowledge and practice? I personally, I try not to get into a space where I feel I know any of that stuff. Especially questions about the unconscious or the subconscious, which some people make a distinction between. By definition, those processes are opaque to us. You know, if it wasn't, it would be conscious. So I can't find a grounding for pretending to know anything about the unconscious. What you said may be true, and it may be a useful and positive framing element, but for me, that's all it could be, a useful and positive framing element. So I couldn't ever say that I'm in the school of thought about something like that. That's also why I can't really, you know, Freud and Jung, I just like, it's too much about the unconscious for me. I can't get into it because I'm just like, it sure sounds like everything we're talking about is getting conscious real quick. Like, I don't, yeah, I just don't, I can't believe them. I can't buy it. You know, I don't, the idea that like a vision is sort of showing you the unconscious or something like that. It's like, it's just conscious now. I can't imagine what you would be able to say about the unconscious that could be provable in some capacity or something like that. Steven, do you have a name for your followers? Goblin Army? The Zapatists? No, I don't. I don't like labels. I hate labels. Throwing dices to decide your menu on a restaurant. Yeah, just doesn't make any sense. I really admire how you put together your thoughts into words. Do you have any advice on doing so? Just writing. That's the only advice I could give. If you write out your thoughts with some regularity, it will naturally help clarify your thinking, I think. So journaling to some capacity would be that. Mustard Custard says 90-10 rule would be very hard while learning fundamentals. Later, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm dubious about even that. I think the way most people learn fundamentals is so off. Like, most people learn fundamentals by spending years just doing the fundamentals. And even that is just like, I think that's so backwards and completely wrong that, yeah, it's like, I would not outright agree that it would be difficult while learning fundamentals. I would need to know how a person thinks they're learning the fundamentals. You could totally do the 90-10 rule while learning your fundamentals. It would just be spend 90% of your time start the day doing a creative piece of output, spend 90% of your time on that. At the end of your 90% distribution, identify a problem with the piece that you were working on, a perspective problem, an anatomy problem. Spend the 10% at the end of your day learning how to fix that problem. So now you're in fundamental world. You're learning a fundamental thing about perspective. You're learning a fundamental thing about anatomy. You go to bed having learned how to fix it so that you know exactly what your next step is. You're happy about it. The next day you can't wait to get back to the drawing board because you know exactly how to fix that foot or how to fix that perspective problem. You fix it at the beginning of the session and then you continue being creative. Hate to tell you, but that's learning your fundamentals. And unlike a lot of people who are going to spend years, maybe decades, not putting anything in their portfolio, you are going to be finishing pieces and putting things in your portfolio, even if you're only learning fundamentals sort of piecemeal and with a lot of space in between them, which is probably just as good as how a lot of people learn fundamentals, because a lot of people start their fundamentals journey learning, let's say, perspective, and then they think they're done after a year. They go spend 5 years doing other stuff, and then at the end of the 5 years, they realize they fucking forgot perspective. So what was all that for? Nonsense, you know? It don't work. It don't work. Do you like old comics and the art? Depends what you mean by old comics. I mean, lots of old comics have crazy good art. I mean, the level of draftsmanship in Western comics, the level of draftsmanship in like old pulp comic books from like the 50s, 60s, 40s, the level of draftsmanship in those was, in a lot of cases, far higher than the level of draftsmanship that we have in comics now. Really high level draftsmanship. Again, there was more of like the, it was just the market was the industry and the market and the sort of supporting structures were stronger. You know, there was more incentive to work at a higher level, to have teams, to have assistants, to invest in the story and the comic and the company and all that. There's much less of that now. So the level of draftsmanship has gone down a bit, in my personal opinion. But my personal opinion on that is shit, because I don't really like comics. I don't read them. So I'm totally talking out of my ass here. Book recommendations would depend on the topic. Hi, Stephen. I like stylization done by some artists that seem to work at Disney Animation. Some names. Do you know any resources to study stylization besides study their work? I think for the most part, stylization is learned by looking at people who stylize well, for the most part. There's very little objective you could say about stylization. There's no rules there. The best like primer on general concepts that can be applied to stylization that I've seen is Steven Silver's book, The Silver Way. I would, you know, I don't know if it's still in print. I don't know how expensive it is now, but that's a good book for it. Because it's less about rules. There's some rule-ish stuff there that I can't say I agree with Steven Silver on, so don't take my endorsement of the book here as an endorsement of some of the rule-ish stuff in there. Like, Steven Silver just fully believes in the golden ratio. I don't, right? So I'm not saying like, you know, he puts golden ratio calipers to all his designs to like get to decide his proportions. I can't say I agree with that. I don't know if you do. It might be useful to you. I don't know, but I'm not talking about that stuff. The really good stuff in the book is that he more explains how he thinks about stylizing things, and most books don't do that. So I think that's a good book for looking into it. But yeah, just don't get fooled into thinking there's rules about stylization. You know, it in some sense, it's like, would it even really be stylization if it was just following rules? I don't think so. You know, it's about inventing new things, stylization. Hello, Milk Ball Wayudi. What's up? Hello, Reynola Dominguez. What's up? Hola, Stephen. What do you think about the creature design from Nope? I thought it was cool. It was different. I like anything that is different. Different is few and far in between these days. So I just find it really good whenever anything's different. Do you remember your first drawing? Not really. I know what it was because my sister claims that she remembers it. It was a cat that she taught me how to draw. My sister's much older than I am. But I don't remember it. I just sort of, you know, I remember the story, you know. I don't actually have the memory of that happening. I was too young. I think the earliest drawing I can remember, like, vividly doing, or like having a memory about it, was I think the earliest one I can remember now is a drawing I did of Link fighting Ganon. I want to say it was for like a school thing, but yeah, I think that's the earliest drawing that I remember. I don't remember like doing it, but I can remember looking at it when it was done or like presenting it. What do you think of the Unity engine debacle? I don't know enough details about it. I saw that it was in the news and it's about some fees that everybody's upset about. But I don't know enough about it to say in good conscience that I've formed an opinion about it. But it seems like people are super mad about it and feel that it's going to screw them over. And with a sort of sudden levy of fees, yeah, it's probably bad. But I don't know. It seems like game developer inside baseball, right? Am I misunderstanding that? I don't think it affects. It doesn't affect consumers, does it? It doesn't. Does it charge consumers? The little bit that I read, it seemed like it was only charging the people who distribute the games, right? The game developer. So it does seem like a industry inside baseball, but yeah, I mean, fees are always bad. I'm sure it would screw over the developers in a lot of situations. And I think they said they were gonna fix it, right? They reacted to the backlash. I think they said they were gonna do something about it. Thoughts on the paper mache Mexican aliens? I wish H.R. Giger had designed them, like I said in my community post. It's like, just make them a little cooler. Just make them a little cooler, guys. It doesn't, but developers might increase price of the games to compensate. Right. I always love those serviettes fancy people wear. Any advice on getting the wilder folds? All I do, and maybe it's ill-advised, this just happens to be the way that I have always done it whenever you do something like that, is that I draw the leading edge first and then I just connect the folds. So I do a crazy line like this to just let myself go nuts. And that's just pure, it's not even calligraphy. It's just like, how comfortable are you just letting your line do something chaotic, right? Just get really used to making a snaky, crinkly line like that. And then I know they're all gonna emanate from a point like up here, and then I just connect. I just connect all of them back to the point. And I do the bottom sides too. That's how I do like capes too. If I ever need to do a cape, cloak, something like that. Maybe that's not the best way to do them, or a way that would work for everyone, forget best. But that's just how I've always found myself doing them. But what if it bends halfway? Oh, dude, look, if you're looking for, if you're not looking for like a quick way to just sort of shorthand it, it's like, dude, just, reference all the way. If you're looking for like the full authenticity, like how would it really do it? Don't play around with any kind of like hand technique that you could say something about. It's reference all the way. Complex things like clothing folds, materials, things like that. It's like, there's no reason to not if that's what you want, if you want like the minutia, like, oh, but what if it bends somewhere here? Or there's all sorts of minutia questions you could ask about that. Like, don't mess around. Don't look for some hand technique. Just hunt for good reference and draw looking at that. That goes for everything, you know? Little hand technique stuff is just like, it's all shorthands. It's just quick ways to, you know, it generally looks nice. It gets the idea across to the viewer and you don't have to get super involved with it. But when when push comes to shove, when the rubber needs to meet the road, look at the real deal. You know, you can't guess. You can't guess the real deal. You can't imagine it. You can't remember it. You know, that's nature. You know, that's the chaos of life. I feel like a lot of people are scared to use reference. Yeah, I think that's like the, you know, there's this, I forget if this is the term, but it's like an academic saying, or as, you know, academic as stuff like this actually is, the anxiety of influence for, it's not just for drawers, it's for all kinds of artists, musicians, inventors, things like that. That all just gets binned under the anxiety of influence. And it is for the most part irrational, right? But there is a real part of it. There is a reason to have an anxiety about influence. It shouldn't be anxiety, but it's like, you should be aware of how you're being influenced. And if you're the kind of artist who is interested in mining a very particular personal thing with their art, it makes sense to be careful about your influences. And it makes sense to want to draw from imagination a lot, because there probably isn't a reference for that hyper personal thing and you need to figure out what it is. But above that level, like stuff that isn't on that personal level, yeah, you shouldn't have any anxiety about using a reference. I mean, you can't, if you're looking for the sublime minutia of how a material reflects light or how a certain kind of clothing folds, those things are aspects of nature, and there's no way you could calculate it in your head. It'd be obviously impossible because you're a part of nature, right? You as another little aspect of nature cannot, you know, generate from within the full rule set for that other aspect of nature. It's just impossible to do. So don't waste your time with that. You know, if it's not going to impinge on something that you definitively care about being internal, right? Being from an internal place, go use the reference. Go get the reference for sure. Harold Bloom wrote that book. Which book? Is The Anxiety of Influence a book by Harold Bloom? If that is, then that's definitely where I got the phrase from. I haven't read the book, but I must have heard it at some point. What is your favorite fast food restaurant? Oh, I really like Kava right now. I don't know if you have that where you are, but it's like, they make these overstuffed Mediterranean bowls. That's my favorite right now. But isn't it better to reference and be influenced by things and artists you like at the time than it is to tread water in place, never feel like you are improving, getting frustrated, and quit? Yeah, it is better. Anything that leads you to quitting is always the wrong call. Frazetta was pretty against it for some reason. He was not. He used reference all the time. What Frazetta did was, in his later age, maintain a false narrative that he did not use reference, but he was not against it. He used it all the time, and he owned thousands of dollars of photography equipment. It is, in my opinion, an unfortunate sullying of his legacy that, for reasons that I don't understand, he decided to put forth that narrative. And in my opinion, as much as he inspired generations, also mislead a significant portion of artists into not using reference off of what I can only interpret as a petty lie. I'm sure it was, I don't know. He never gave a reason why he did that. My interpretation as someone who does a lot of imaginative work and work purely from imagination as well, is that it was a lie, but it communicated a truth to people who were asking him about his process, where they may not have understood how much of the quality of his work was based on his imaginative virtuosity if he had included explanations of how he used reference and the references that he did use. Someone who is not an artist, who has never struggled for years to do imaginative work or to work from reference, might not be able to grasp it. Whereas he could make them grasp the actual depth of his ability with his imagination by telling that lie, by saying it's all from me, right? It's like, that is objectively a lie, right? I'm not saying Frank Frazetta didn't lie, but it would communicate the profound impact the quality of his imagination had on the output of his work, with a clarity and a cleanness that otherwise wouldn't be there if he focused on the reference. That's my interpretation of why he might have done it, but I don't know, and I'm probably elevating it too much. He probably had pettier reasons. It might have just been straight boasting, like Nick Ravioli said. Steven, any tips on drawing lots of overlapping figures? Start with the foreground. If you start in the background or in the middle, you'll avoid covering up the work that you already did, which will steal the punch from the figures that get closer and closer to camera. Cursed Fetus says, if you could say this feature is the most important factor to look for while drawing faces, which one would you choose? Is it the eyes? Yeah, if you had to choose one, it'd be the eyes. It's just, you know, they have a profound psychological impact. They also have the most expressive power because they change the most, except for the mouth. The mouth changes more than any other, but then it's the eyes. But yeah, you can't, if you had to pick one, it'd have to be the eyes. I mean, they just have so much, our brain is just hunting for them, you know? Clearly the most important part is the earlobes. Yeah, well, the great thing about characters is that if you're creative, you can express the character with goddamn everything. Their nose, their earlobes, you know, you could pierce them with jewelry that explains their character and things like that. You can really get across whatever you may want. I searched up Frazetta and the fourth result on Google Images was AI art. Yeah, with the very popular artists, that's happening for all of them now. If you search like Kim Jung-gi, so many of the search results are AI diversions. It's really muddying up the searches. I find it's good to have multiple references of the same subject so that you capture the essence of the subject instead of copying a particular image. Yeah, I would agree. It depends how you like to work. I mean, lots of like likeness artists and things like that, they do good work just focusing on the clarity of using a single reference. You know, they're just trying to nail that reference. Because like, you know, depending on your goals, like if your goals are really just like this portrait needs to look like them, the most bang for your buck is just having a quality reference, right? Not a naive reference, not like a bad one, but like a good photo, for example, that you shot and you're good at shooting and you know what you need, right? It has good exposure, you know, you've got good midtones and all of that with good lighting that explains the form. So let's assume a good reference. The most bang for your buck for getting the likeness is just nail that reference with no distractions. Don't fuck with it. Don't move a cheek out in more, move it a millimeter over or anything like that. Just copy the reference, and if what the person's looking for is a likeness, they got it. Like the photo looks like them, right? Some photos don't look like you actually, which is an interesting nuance to add to the conversation, right? But if we assume the photo looks like you, you're good. Just copy that one photo. But that's not everybody's goals, you know? It's not like it isn't already freaking hard enough to do a nice drawing off of a photo. Stephen, have you ever listened to Type O Negative? No, I don't know what that is. Is that a podcast about blood? Is it a bloodcast? Welcome. You're listening to the Bloodcast. No, this is not the other, more popular, gang-related podcast. This is me, Steven Zapata, on my podcast that is completely obsessed with blood, the way it looks, the different types. Today on Bloodcast, how red is right red? And we dispel the myth of blue blood. Hello, Steve, says Yam. Hello, Yam. The AI art for Frazetta is very bad. There was a mammoth with abs on its face. That's awesome. Did you play Divinity? The soundtrack is so good. Yes, I did. Have you ever learned the Riley method abstraction rhythm? Yes. I don't use it like any of the things like Riley or the Loomis head. I tried them out, did them for a while to learn from them what I could learn, but I don't like draw with them. I don't use them. You know, I don't like, I like to draw freely. You know, that's always been my internal goal for the way that I draw. I want to be able to draw well, just going, blah, you know, just like shooting it out, you know? I don't want to have these rules and systems and all of this sort of holding me back, you know? Or less holding me back, but like influencing me greatly, you know? We've been going for about 2.5 hours here, folks, so I'm going to jump off soon. I'm getting hungry. I want to go eat lunch. But I'll stay on for a few more minutes, so if you got any last questions or if I missed a question and you want to re-ask it, throw it in the chat. I'll get to what I can before hunger overcomes me. What kind of sketch pad are you using? This is a Moleskine Sketchbook, not their regular notebooks. It's their sketchbook line. What kind of paper do you use for fountain pen? It works really nice. These fountain pens work really nice in the Moleskine. Also on bristle paper, they work nice. Bristle paper is good for pen in general. It bleeds a little more than something really slick like the Moleskine paper does. But I don't find the bleed distracting. In fact, sometimes it gives a very nice effect. It's a very, very, I mean, the bristle paper takes ink super smooth. I mean, the bleed that I'm talking about is only in comparison with something that has almost zero bleed, you know? And it's actually a benefit because it takes ink much longer to dry in the Moleskine because it doesn't bleed. It's because it's sitting right on the surface and not sinking into the paper. So it's actually a negative in many ways. The bristle paper, the ink dries much quicker. What's for lunch? I don't know. I gotta look. Maybe a grilled cheese. When the full course in Spanish? I can't say yet. Not yet. My translator's taking a little break for personal reasons, but they'll be back. We are working on it. What animal do you think inspires you the most on your drawings? Octopuses and squids. I love those guys. Stephen, you are very based. Thank you for the tips. Insight of patience. Thank you, Moho Rice. I am very based, aren't I? I'm so based. It's a band that you'd like, I believe. All right, I'll keep that in mind. Steven likes disco. Look, disco's cool, all right? It's great. It's a jam. It's a groove. You can't deny it. Steve, I heard someone mention that you have a podcast. Is this true? And if so, what is it called and where can I find it? I don't really. I have a public podcast that you can find if you search my name on Spotify, but it's not different stuff. It's just audio versions of a bunch of the videos, which I haven't updated in a while, but that's all right because no one was really listening to it. So it's not a real podcast. It's just the YouTube content just on its own because some people were requesting it. So I tried it out. It's not new content. I don't think there's any. I think everything you can find on there is stuff you'd find on the YouTube. If you're a member of the Patreon, the Patreon does have a bunch of patron-only audio. There's Q&As in there. There's several podcast-style talks that are not available anywhere but the Patreon. So it's not really a podcast. It's not a public podcast, but it's podcast style. And if you sign up for the Patreon and then whoa, my bit rate is dumping out of nowhere. I don't know what that's about. Sorry. If you sign up for the Patreon and you go to your membership info, I have a link to put in your podcatcher, an RSS identifier. If you put that into your podcatcher, like the Apple Podcast app or Stitcher or whatever, it will add the Patreon feed as a podcast, and then you can listen to it like a podcast. It'll separate out all the individual audio files. I just uploaded a answering Q&A questions from the patrons. I uploaded that as a podcast just the other day, 2 days ago. It's about, I think it was a little over an hour of me answering questions. Hi, Stephen. Any thoughts on sticking with one medium and honing your skills with it versus jumping around from week to week? I think most people wind up naturally having a primary medium. For me, it was always pencil. Like there was, the infinite flexibility, and I just had a natural connection with pencil. So I've tried so many other things and had love affairs with so many other mediums, but pencil was always operating parallel to that. If you don't feel like you have that yet, just keep searching. Don't force it. I would say, I think it's almost impossible. I don't know of any artist who just doesn't have a primary medium. I don't think I know anyone like that. So if you're just in a period right now where you feel like that's true for you, I think it's more likely instead that you haven't found it yet. So just keep exploring. Don't force it. Just enjoy this period where you're interested in trying everything. And I think rather naturally, you will find one that you like the most. So just keep doing that, I would say. Do you feel that drawing digitally is a separate skill altogether? Did you have any issues integrating traditional skills? No, I don't think it's separate. If you're drawing digitally anything like traditionally, like you're doing lines and value shapes, no, it's the same. There's certain interesting differences, but I do think whatever abilities you develop in one, they will transfer to the other, because you're integrating concepts. So. I don't know what's happening to my internet. My bitrate is suddenly awful. I'm sorry, guys. I may jump off because my internet's very mad at me. Internet's been good lately. We haven't had any problems lately, right? I mean, I feel like stream has been running very smoothly. Any advice on the importance of observation to improve your drawings? I mean, it's essential. You gotta observe. Be observing all the time. That's always what I tell people. Like, don't do it just when you're drawing from life. Like, it's a mindfulness exercise. Like, you should, as much as possible, you should be aware of the way the world around you looks. Thank you, Wixindos. Do you have a specific image in your mind before you put the pen to paper, or are you just going with the flow? With stuff like this, I'm just going with the flow. When I do a really involved picture that I know I'm pushing all the way, then yeah, usually I have an image in mind. But I've usually built up that image by doing preparatory sketches. And if you follow the train all the way back, probably the very first preparatory sketch, I was just going with the flow. I didn't have a particular image in mind. What canvas size do you like to paint on digitally? As big as possible without slowing down my computer. That's the general rule. As far as I'm concerned, in digital, there's no, besides performance issues, there is no drawback to working huge. So I would just find whatever canvas size doesn't lag your computer and your brushes still work fast at the sizes you generally like to use them, and just stick to that size. There's very few reasons to work smaller. Hey Steve, how do you get over the overwhelming feeling initially in learning 3D to aid my 2D drawings? Um, I I wouldn't worry about it too much, because if you're really learning 3D as an aid to 2D drawings, it takes a lot of the pressure off, because you don't have to learn any of the production stuff. You don't have to learn like. Shut up, Siri. Quiet. What the? Shut the fuck up. You don't have to learn things like topology and things like that. You only need to be able to kludge things together just enough to serve as your 2D aid. So yeah, don't get overwhelmed. I mean, you get to skip all the annoying parts of 3D. The really annoying parts of 3D are all the production concerns. The stuff that like 3D artists get hired for. It's like a lot of people can make cool models, but most of the pro 3D artists are getting hired because they can make a cool model that works, you know, that you can put in a game, that can be textured and things like this. It's like there's a lot of technical concerns that you just don't really need to worry about. So yeah, just have fun with it. You get to just learn you get to learn the 20% of knowledge in 3D that gives you 80% of the impact. So it's a good place to be in. Leo J says, "Are you perming your hair?" Why? A lot of people ask that. No, I'm not. I just have curly hair. You know, I just have curly hair. It gets if I let it grow really big, the curls get like really wide and loose, and my hair like falls over and splits to the side of my head. It gets pretty crazy. Plexel says, "Steven, I found that I'm no longer interested in creating aesthetically pleasing works only, but I would like to do more meaningful work. I'm not sure where to start. Any thoughts or advice on this?" It's a good place to hit. It's a very broad question. Start writing. That's what I would say. Not writing you're going to share. Just like start writing to yourself your thoughts about what does meaningful mean for you. That's what did it for me. But you got to go on a personal journey there. Nick says, "No meaningful question from me right now. So hi, Steven, how are you?" I'm all right. Thanks, Nick. I'm a little irritable lately, like I said at the beginning of the stream, but that'll pass. Sometimes you're just irritable. Fuck it. MBD. Can't wait for lunch, I'll tell you what. I am also a little, for anybody who missed it, I am a little bummed that I'm probably going to be taking a break from streaming here for a bit. For anyone who didn't hear, streaming has started to hurt the channel. I'm on average now losing subscribers from every stream. So I think I just need to take a break. I don't know how long that'll be, from streaming to make videos. So I'm not disappearing. I'm just gonna make video. I think right now, my thought right now is I'm gonna make videos instead of streaming for a while to get data on what the hell is happening, because it's been a while since I've made a video, so it's like the data's old on how much better videos perform than streams. So I got to gather that data for a bit and then figure out what the heck is going on and what I should do. So that's a bit of a bummer, but it's not forever. I'll be back to it. I like streaming. You know, I'm always going to come back to it one way or the other. I've been doing it for many years now, so yeah, I'm not going to stop, but I do need to take a break to figure out how to. I'm okay with neutral, you know, like it not helping the channel much, but I do feel like I got to find a way to make it not hurt the channel. Does this pen have a rechargeable deposit? No, this one has canisters. You don't. It's not one of those fountain pens where you like put it into an inkwell and then refill it by pulling the trigger. It's you have to buy individual cartridges. Any advice on searching for art jobs on LinkedIn? I'm going to be getting ready to look for my first art job. I want to try to land a junior concept art position. I unfortunately do not have advice on LinkedIn in particular. I have not looked for jobs on LinkedIn. And I closed my LinkedIn recently because I wasn't updating it or using it, and it just felt weird to have it sitting there to occasionally get the odd message that I was never going to respond to. It felt rude in some capacity. So yeah, I'm sorry. I can't help you there. All right, what am I missing here? Vasat says Steven Zapata has the singing voice of an angel. It's a known fact. It is a known fact. It's a well-acknowledged and known fact, and it's a matter of the public record at this point. A matter of the public record. Is there a medium you find the most difficult to work with? Yeah, I found a lot of mediums difficult. I just don't worry about the like, I don't care if something's hard, you know, like it. I very rarely have like specific needs I need to wring out of a medium that I'm not good with, you know. If I'm doing a medium that I find very difficult, I'm almost always doing it in a relaxed setting, so it's okay if it all goes wrong. I always say watercolor is fucking hard. Like regular straight up watercolor is really unforgiving. I've always found that difficult to work with, but I use it a lot because it's great. It's a really fun, direct sketching medium. I think watercolor is awesome, but I would say of the things that I regularly use, watercolor is definitely the hardest one for me. Can you do a quick doodle of some goblin on pumpkin action? You see the shit that I get on these streams? That's why you can't be on here for too long. You hang out for near 3 hours, people are just like, hey man, why don't you draw a goblin fucking a pumpkin? It's like, dude, what? No, easy. Disgusting. Steven, a question on warming up your hand, mind, eye. I was listening to Ahmed talk about trudging the swamp. Do you agree with the concept of just taking a while to dive in or jump right in the deep? Another one of those things that Ahmed and I don't really agree on. Actually, I talk about this. I just mentioned that Patreon Q&A that I posted on my Patreon. I talk about this for quite a while in response to one of the questions on that one. I don't really believe warming up is that important. You know, I'm not denying that it works for Ahmed, right? He's really concerned with getting through that swamp. But I have a lot of problems with it. I'm not sure it's that what we think is happening there is actually what's happening there. And I think it's kind of limiting for most people. Like, does it really sound useful to believe that you need to draw for an hour and a half before you can get down to the business of doing your real work? Does that really sound useful? Does that really sound useful for most people? You know, most people have day jobs where they have to work for 8 hours and then they do art at night and they've barely got 2 hours to spend doing their work. Is it really useful for that person to need to invest in an hour of the 2 hours they have into doing drawings they don't really care about before they can get to the drawing they care about? Doesn't sound good to me. Doesn't sound useful to me. And it'd be different if it was clearly true that needed to happen. But to me, it's not clearly true. It just doesn't seem obviously true that warming up is real. And I think people who have gotten into that, I mean, let's be honest. I think a lot of people who, if you've spent a considerable amount of time trying to hit that point where you're like, all right, now I warmed up for a half hour, now I'm good. For most people, it's like you do a good drawing in your warm-up period and you're like, all right, now I'm good. And then you can't replicate that magic in your real work. It turns out it was, instead of it being like, I suck, now I'm warmed up and now I'm going to keep going up, it was actually more like a bell curve. It's like, I suck, now I'm warmed up and I'm going to progressively get worse until the end of my session. Prove me wrong. Prove to me that that's not what's actually happening. I think that's the experience. That's been my experience with warming up. That's the experience for a lot of people warming up. I don't know how you could disprove that's the case, but if that's actually what's happening, if it's instead of bell curve of ability does it really seem useful to hit the peak of that bell curve in a drawing you don't care about? You should be hitting the peak of that bell curve in the drawing you do care about, in your real work. So if that's the case, then at best, you should be warming up for a brief pre-described period, and you should stop at the end of that period, even if you have not done a good drawing yet. Because you should just be trying to begin the ramp and expect that you'll hit the peak quality moment on the drawing that actually matters, not on a random warm-up sketch. But then there's the kinds of artists who your random warm-up sketches are actually your art, right? You don't do more involved drawings, really. So it's like, it's all on balance with what your practice is like, what you need. But I don't know. I have a lot of doubts around the concept of warming up. I really do. All right, I really gotta get through here. Daniel Acosta says, hi, Stephen. Recently told you on ArtStation I love those pencil drawings. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. I know people are sad facing about the streams. I know. I know, it's a bummer. I'm bummed about it too, but it's not forever. Like I said, I just need to take a break to figure out how to balance out the channel. But I'm not going to stop streaming. If it's on another YouTube channel, if it's on this one, if it's on Twitch, I will keep streaming. I like streaming, so it's not going to stop. I just need to figure out what the heck is happening. Are you drinking water properly? I'm usually well hydrated. Hey, Stephen, dumb question. Have you seen Sargent watercolors? They're so good. I have. They're fantastic. I remember the Brooklyn Museum years and years ago had a big show where they had like all of them in one place. And I went to that show multiple times. Philip says, you bringing your running stuff to Lightbox? I don't think so. I don't know. I'm only there for the right for the weekend, so I don't know. I'll probably just be seeing people and doing the show. Who knows how much time I'll have to exercise. We'll see. All right, everybody. It's real close to lunchtime, so I'm going to run. Thank you for being here. Know that break is coming. I don't know if I might stream tomorrow. Who fucking knows? I'm just telling you that break from streaming is coming. I'm not saying this is the last stream before that break, because like I said, I like streaming, so it's very hard for me to, if I want to stream, it's really hard for me to not stream, so I might be back, but that stream is coming. I got to figure out what the heck is happening to the channel. So I appreciate you all being here. I hope to see you very soon. Even if not on stream, you'll see a video from me soon, or multiple videos while I'll figure things out. I don't know. Anything else? Do I have any other like housekeeping kind of things? No, I don't think so. I'll be at Lightbox for the first 2 days of Lightbox, I think. I've got panels on AI that I'm doing there. So once that all gets solidified, I'll give you guys more info. And if you guys are going to Lightbox or anything like that, I'll be happy to meet you and say hi. And yeah, I'm not tabling or anything. I'm just doing a panel or two. I actually don't know how many I'm doing because it's all still getting scheduled and getting solidified. But I'm just doing those and I'm walking around. I'm attending besides that. So yeah, I think that's the only housekeeping thing I've got. But yeah, keep an eye out for more info on that if you're going to Lightbox. It'd be fun to cross paths with a bunch of you. All right, everybody, take care. Good luck with your drawings, and thanks for hanging out while I doodled all of these ink thingies. I needed a good doodle session. Goodbye, everyone. Take care. Goodbye to Victor Chamuska. Iqbal. Victor Chamuska. I did Victor twice right away, back to back. Samal Kucher. Zelafay. Jeff E. Matej K. Mojo Rice. Autumn Rose. Charlie. Boxer Ring 1970. Abel Vasquez Dopazo. Mike. Dino Blaster. Cad. Mr. Soon. Did I say Zelafay? One Iragraphist. Oni Iragraphist. Christian Nee is here. Hello, Christian. How are you? This is the best artist of all time. Incredible. Goodbye, Christian. Good to see you, man. Soko, goodbye. Wintermute. Omega Redtooth, goodbye. Goodbye, folks. Take care, everybody. Goodbye, Cad. Goodbye, Carson. Goodbye, Reynola Dominguez. Goodbye, Lady, and goodbye, Wall. Goodbye, Karsten. Goodbye, Orendon.